Hello, it's Ed. Welcome to the studio. And yes, I will eventually get that black mark removed from that wall, but I just never seem to get around to it. Anyway, very exciting this week because I just took receipt of this package from eBay, and hopefully it is a new back for my RB67, which means that I will be able to shoot black and white and colour on the same assignment. And also, this is a 645 back, so I should get 15 shots on this rather than the usual 10. So let's crack it open, see if it is what I hope it is, and if it is, let's shoot it. Yes, 645. Hopefully the seals are in decent condition. It has a dark slide. Again, don't know if that dark slide is completely flat. It looks like there's a little bit of a gap there. Pop it open. Is it a bad sign when black dust comes out? Is that part of the seals that have collapsed? Well, we'll just have to see, won't we? And if it's not in good condition, we will have to fix it. But yeah, there's a lot of not good stuff there. Winds on nice and smoothly. Okay. First impressions, generally positive. Slightly concerned about the seals. They do look pretty worn out. Let's pop it back together. Right, let's put some film through it and see what we get. Welcome to the wonderful city of Sheffield. It's a little bit windy, so I hope you can hear what I'm saying. But basically, I am here to shoot some nice industrial landscapes, or whatever takes my fancy really. So first of all, I'm going to load up the Fomapan 400 that I didn't use at Irwood Hall into my original 6x7 back, and then I will load the 645 back with some Kodak Gold. I've also made a little mask for the 645, so that should be useful. So right, here we go. I got the camera, got the extra back, and we have the 2 rolls of film. So this should be done in subdued light, but it's an imperfect world. So the camera's loaded. I've got the Gold 200 in at the moment. I've got my light meter, 2/50th f22. Lovely. So as you can see, not amazing contrast, and it looks very much like there are light leaks, doesn't it? But I didn't know that at the time, and so I carried on to Park Hill Flats, which is a famous Sheffield landmark, to get some nice graffiti and urban regeneration pictures. So I just shot a couple of pictures of Park Hill Flats and the graffiti around here, and I have noticed I shot them on the 645 because I wanted to get the colour in, but with the 645 obviously it's a smaller frame size, so the lens is covering less area. So when I think, oh, I'm going to get all of this in, I'm actually only getting a section of it, so I've had to rotate to go for portrait or landscape to try and get more of what I wanted in. So I probably would have been better off with the 6.7 actually, but I've loaded black and white into that, so it's the same old thing. It's the wrong film for the conditions, but actually it might come out okay, and I could do a black and white of that at the 6.7 and get something interesting, but I think I'm going to save it for now until I've had some lunch, and then I can get some more good shots hopefully. Well, that's good. I had a cheeky burger and now I'm off towards the university campus where there are usually some interesting buildings to shoot. It's around solar noon now, and it's probably not the best time to be using the colour film. I want to save that for golden hour, so I'm going to swap out the colour for the black and white. So let's get a light meter reading, remembering that we are now using 400 speed film, saying f19. And this is the result of a 15-minute wait for some birds to fly above the Arts Tower. Again, very much looks like light leaks here, but I'll talk about that in more detail when I do the slideshow at the end of this video. I'm heading into an area called Kelham Island. I've only been here once before, and that was in the middle of the night because I was going to a party. But it seems really cool, actually. It's all broken down warehouses that are just about to be gentrified, I think. Lots of things are for sale, lots of things have been tarted up, but there are also lots of bits which haven't been. So it's kind of nice to wander around and see what I can find. I'm just outside the Kelham Island Museum here, and I'm going to swap backs. I want to get that in colour. I've got a black and white shot, but I think the colour of the red of the stop sign would work really well. And hope that we don't get any light leaks. I fear that we may, but that's what all this is about, and it's testing. So we'll take this one off. Put that in there, and we put this on here. There we go, is that locked? That's locked on both sides. Again, here we go, more light leaks. It's clear that something's up with either the back or the camera. It was getting to mid-afternoon by this point, and the weather was starting to change, but I thought I would just try and get one last shot, a skyline of Sheffield, before I headed back towards the station. So I've come to Pitsmoor to get a picture of the skyline, but I really need a telephoto, because even with all the detail on medium format, it's not going to do it justice. It wouldn't have done it justice, but then the light leaks have kind of made a bit of a mess of it anyway. Still, all the fun of the fair. That's what this experimentation's all about. So I think that's a good place to leave it. Just got a shot of not quite sunset, but the end of the day, and it's now time to get the rolls out of here and get them ready for developing. So the film's back from developing, and you've probably seen already some of the results on the video that I've shot so far. But if I show you the negatives themselves, these are the 645 ones, and these are the 6.7 ones. Now, the 6.7 ones in the original back, I'm quite happy with. There is a little bit of fogging at the side of the very first and very last shots on the roll, but that is from the loading and unloading. I think it's not an issue with the camera or the back. Actually, there was an issue with the film, because when I did the loop to lick and stick to hold it together, it just disintegrated, which is not great. So fortunately I had a plaster, a sticking plaster in my bag for emergencies, and I used that to strap it together. But yeah, it could have been a real problem. But happy with those, happy with the results. The 645, as I suspected, there is definitely a light leak in that. And the next episode, I will probably be addressing that light leak. But yeah, I was trying to work out where it was coming from, and looking back at the footage that I'd shot, I could see that it was when I'd taken the back off to swap it in for the 6.7, those were the frames where there were big amounts of light leaking. So I think it is probably that bit around the dark slide that is the problem. The metal on the dark slide surface is slightly warped, and I don't think it's quite mating with the sides of the chamber. So possibly when I took the back off, the light was then getting in, so that frame, and I advanced always to the next frame before I took the back off, so it was then fogged, so the next shot I took had the big amount of fogging on it. So there we go. I will have to address that light leak. But before we go, let's have a look at the images that I shot on the day as a little slideshow. Okay, so let's look at the black and white shots first. And this first one is of the Park Hill Flats on the right and the bridge with the tram going over the ring road to the left. I really like this shot. I think it works well on the black and white, on the medium format, and it would be a lot better if it was blown up to full size. Here you can see a crop, and this is probably what I would do with the image. I would crop it to this shape. In fact, this would have been one that would have been shot really nicely on the 645, but because of the light leaks, I'm quite glad I got this on the 6.7. It's amazing how much detail you actually get in medium format film. I'm scanning these just using a DSLR, so the maximum megapixels that I'm getting out of it is about 20, and I think there's far more detail in there than this. This next shot is the Arts Tower, and again, this is the first shot that I took. You can see at the bottom of the frame it's number 1 and 2, so that's why there's some fogging on this. I think it's from where I loaded the film. But it's a nice crisp shot, and if you zoom in on it, you can actually see what I was trying to show, which is the pigeons all murmurating in front of the trees in the Arts Tower, because there's a guy feeding the pigeons on a bench at the bottom of the frame. The next shot, it's come out well, it's properly exposed. Again, there's a slight light leak to the right of the image, but it's a fairly standard picture. Nothing that I'm particularly excited about, but I was just testing the camera out. This next shot is the kind of picture that I really like, but again, I think you need to see it at full size to get the most out of it. There are some discarded chairs in front of the graffiti, and that is the real interest in the picture. When you see it this size on a computer or a TV screen, you can't really get that information out of it. But if it was blown up to its full glory, I think this would make a really nice shot, and I really like the way the skies come out in this picture as well. This next shot is the black and white shot of the wall by Kelham Island, where it's really interesting. The buildings to the far left haven't been gentrified yet, and the ones to the right have been, and you get this kind of borderline, which is really interesting. And you've got the cranes up there in the background showing all the work that's going up behind it, and the mural is really nice. So I like this shot, but the colour one would have been even better, and sadly that's one of the ones that was really badly affected by the light leaks. Also, user error. I hadn't swapped my light meter to 200 speed film from 400 because the black and white was 400, so I underexposed the shot quite a lot, and that was really detrimental as well. This shot's something and nothing really. If I was going to do anything with it, I would focus in on the middle section and get rid of the information on the outside, because it doesn't really add anything. The next shot was taken nearby where the one before it was, but I was focusing on this little graffitied wall with a staircase leading up to some pretty horrifically ugly brutalist flats. Again, I think this might look better at full size, but it's really not a very interesting picture. However, the frame before it is more interesting because I double exposed this shot, and I double exposed it first in portrait and then in landscape, and in one of the shots somebody was pushing a bicycle across the frame, and actually that's kind of made quite an interesting abstract. Moving on to the colour shots, the first one is the shot I took right at the beginning of my trip, looking out over the city skyline. You can see that the light leaks are affecting the colour rendition here. It's more sort of brown at one side and blue at the other. There's also a slight sort of burned effect on the building. I don't think that was the light catching it. I think that's just a defect. So not a great image really. The next shot is an image you'll probably already have seen in the video up to this point where I was doing the travelogue. This is Park Hill Flats, and the colours actually are rendered quite nicely here. It's not a bad shot, but again, there is some light leak in it, which has made it go slightly weird in the corners. Another picture of Park Hill Flats. This one, really a very dull shot, and I feel kind of embarrassed to show it to you, but I'm trying to show as many of the images that actually came out as possible, just to give you an idea of what I got. But this, yeah, this is real amateur stuff. And this shot, again, I would quite like this if it weren't for the light leak in the bottom left, which has made part of the road go yellowy purple. It looks like there are some marks on the negative as well there. I think actually the back has slightly cut the negatives. If you look at the top of the image, you can see where it's been scuffed, and I think that's probably by something in the 645 back, so I'm really going to have to investigate that. But yeah, it would be an interesting scene otherwise, because I really like these flats at the top. I think they're Hyde Park flats. Sheffield was filled with high-rise mega cities, which were partially knocked down. And these are the remains, and I quite like those. And I think in future years it'll be really interesting to see all the different kinds of cars that we had in the old days. Now this next shot is my favourite of the day, and believe it or not, it's because of the light leaks. That's the thing, sometimes you want things to go wrong. It's just sometimes you don't want things to go wrong, and it's really hard to get things to go wrong when you want them to and not when you don't. But I just love the way it's made what is quite an ordinary scene quite interesting. I was going for the geometrics here with the Belisha beacon in the middle with the yellow and then the square cube of the building behind the bus shelter and the oblong white cube behind that and then the squares at each side of the buildings at the edges of the street. So that's what I was going for with the blue sky and some nice clouds in the middle. But what I also got is this bizarre light leak on the left, which makes the guy who just happened to be walking across the frame looking at the bus stop kind of loom out. And also on the other side, you've got this silhouette of another guy walking across the street, and it just kind of works together. I really like it. Probably a lot of you just think, why? That's a really boring photo. But I actually love it, and it's got that lovely hard triangular shadow in the middle because there's the overhang from the building in the middle, and there's lots of information in there as well. There's like all the people waiting at the bus stop. If you blew this up to full size, I think it would look amazing. And if you had it printed and got these colours, the top right-hand corner is just missing, which is because I was having to hold the negative down because it had warped and I couldn't hold it flat any other way to scan it. So what you're seeing there is the reflection of a silver piece of plastic that I was holding the negative down with. So again, it's a flaw, but it actually makes the picture, in my view, so much more interesting. I tried to repair the image in Photoshop, and that's what it looks like when it's been repaired as much as it can be. It's nice, but it's not as nice as the original, in my view. This next shot, nothing particularly exciting, but it's quite a nice image. This is one of the sort of big steel smelters. Sheffield was a big steel city back in the industrial days, and this is one of the massive things that they would pour the iron ore out of. Again, the film's fogged from the right-hand side, which kind of makes interesting colours, but it's not what I wanted. It's not a good documentary image. My picture of Sheffield Sky, which again you've probably already seen, but it's just totally washed out by the light leak. Again, we're too far away really to be able to pick out the details, but I think if it was a properly exposed and undamaged negative, you'd be able to blow this up and you would be able to see the houses, the flats, the hillside and the sky, and it would make quite a nice image, but it's unrecoverable as it is. This shot probably is not very interesting to anybody watching this, but it is interesting to me because it's the back of a street in an area called Wicker, which is changing a lot, and the traditional high streets are sort of disappearing to be replaced by modern glass buildings and things like that. But this is the back of the high street, so if you're looking at the other side, you'd see all the shop fronts and takeaways and things like that. But here you're looking at the back of these buildings and there's a guy sat on the fire escape just having a smoke or something, and you can see all the pipes from the takeaways. So it's kind of a nice documentary image. I really like that, and you can see the old church tower at the left-hand side as well, so it's got context. This is a really ordinary British scene, but I don't think it's going to be like this for long. But on a computer monitor or TV, probably you don't get the best of this. This picture is a building that I was really interested in, with all the telecommunications equipment on the roof, and it's like an old warehouse building with big glass windows. That's what I wanted to get with the waste ground in front of it. I didn't really have the right lens for this. I've only got one lens for the RB67, so I basically have to shoot this angle, and I couldn't get any closer because I was shooting through the wire of a fence to keep people out. So I could do a crop of just that building, and I think if I got a better quality negative I would do that, but as it stands, there's light leaks in here again, so I'm not sure how well it would hold up. This shot of the Academy, which used to be the first thing you would see when you came out of Sheffield Station. I was a student in Sheffield a long, long time ago, and I remember stepping out of the station, this is all you saw. There was a big wasteland, and then this. Now there's all new buildings next to it, which are part of Sheffield Hallam University, and the way you leave the station is a lot more pleasant, and they've created a nice walkway that takes you into the town via the Crucible. So I just wanted to get this shot because I actually thought this building had sort of disappeared from where I used to see it from, but ruined by the light leak, an absolutely terrible light leak there. It probably wouldn't be a very interesting picture anyway, but as part of a documentary about Sheffield, it would work. but not with a light leak across it. It's not art, it's documentary, and documentary doesn't need that kind of weirdness, I don't think. I guess it's just disappointing to find these issues with the new back. It wasn't a surprise, and I know some people would say, why didn't you test it before you went and did something? But I wanted to go and have a day and shoot stuff that I was interested in, rather than just shooting a test subject 10 times and waiting for the shots to come back from the developer. So it was probably worth it for the day out and that one picture with the light leaks, which I was raving about before. And this, I think, is the last picture, the second to last picture that I took. And again, I took it just for personal reasons, because that's the Leadmill, which is a famous night spot in Sheffield. And my good lady wife, before she started doing other interesting things like selling vintage clothes and stuff like that, check her out on Frock Vintage, by the way. I'll put a link in the description. Before she started doing things like that, she was actually one of the bar staff at the Leadmill, and it was crazy days apparently. And this is the last picture, and this is the Sheffield Skyline, again from the amphitheatre on the hillside above the station. So I took one at the beginning of the day and one at the end of the day, just before I caught my train. And I think at the end of the day, this one is a lot better, because you've got the light flashing off the metal roofs. It would have been really nice if I could have used the full 6x7 frame and got more of the hillside in. It might even have been one that would have worked well with the 35mm film in that, using it to create a panorama. But I'd used up my black and white film, I wanted colour, and this is what I got. It's still quite nice, but you really need to see it again at full size to get the most out of it and see the detail. And because of all the light leaks and things, I don't think it's going to stand up to massive enlargement. So there we go, 2 sets of images, black and white and colour, using the new 645 back. I hope you found it interesting. I think the next episode is going to be fixing that back. So do tune in next time for that. And if you've got any ideas as to what might have happened and where you think the leaks were, let me know before I crack on with it. But really, that's all there is to say for this week. Thanks again so much for sticking with me. It's probably been quite a long one this time, but hopefully you've got something out of it. I certainly have. Have a fantastic week, and see you all again next time. Don't forget, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks so much. Bye.